But now it's like at least a few days in advance, I have to create an outline because Jair needs to know what segments to put within the live production, right? I have to create an outline because Rigel needs to know, okay, what the captions are going to be. So I feel like it forces me to be more organized, which I think as a extrovert and as a person who can remix and just do stuff on the fly, I've used that gift a lot and it's helped me get so far. All right, we're out. Coaching is what happens when the cameras turn off. What's going on, Bev? Welcome back. So again, today we'll be going through the kind of 7 steps to launch, but more specifically, looking at the podcast. Want to start off with why start a podcast or why start a business. Quinn, you want me to dive in? You want to go?
If you have something, go for it.
Oh, okay. So for podcasting, do you have a message, right, that you want more and more people to hear?
Yeah.
Basic, simple. Our message, which we'll talk about a little bit later, is we want people to hear about healthy resources, health information, wealth information. We want to make that readily accessible for our friends, for our family, and for the Black community out there to get this information, period. So for you, if you have a certain message, a certain story, whether it's trauma you've been through or healing that you want to share with the community, starting a podcast or starting a blog is a great way to do it. There's so many platforms out there,
Right.
the YouTube, the Spotify, the Apple Music. You can turn your vlogs or your podcast into blogs and just a lot of other content. So I would say starting off, if you have a certain message that you want to get out there and you're trying to reach more people, doing it through a podcast is a beautiful way to go. How about you, Queen?
Yeah, I think is if you kind of going back to your first point, if you have something to say that you need to get out there, it is a great forum to do that. Especially if you're like, if videos is not necessary, like you can take it and make it a video, but you don't have to. Like there are a lot of podcasts out there that are just the audio. So if being on camera is not like your main thing and doing videos, then a podcast is a great way to get your message out there and just be able to talk and have just like informal conversations. Or if you want to invite guests, maybe you learn from a mentor and you want other people to have access to that same information. Like you can tell stories. Like I just listened to, I don't remember where we were going, but we heard an ad about like a podcast that was about to start about like moments that a stranger was in need and some random person came and saved them, saved them in their time of need, and like a whole podcast on different moments and different stories about that happening. So it's like literally you can podcast about anything. So I think it's just a good forum to get your message heard. If you have something that people should hear or that is it just entertaining, right? That it's a great forum to start.
So talk to me through, right? We started this podcast 2.5 years ago, right? What were you first thinking when I came to you and I was like, Queen, let's start a podcast? What were your first initial thoughts? You remember?
I don't remember what my first initial thoughts, but I kind of was just like, okay, why not?
Nice.
Like kind of like there's nothing to lose. Like, and we do have stuff that we want to say and like information that we believe should get out there. So, I mean, we do a lot of talking anyways. Might as well let the people in on some of our conversations. So yeah, I feel like it was more like a why not situation. Like, why not? I didn't know what to expect. I didn't necessarily, and I know I am a very futuristic person, but I didn't necessarily think about like, what are we gonna look like after 100 episodes? Like, when are we gonna? Yeah, like I didn't necessarily think about where it would go from there, but it seemed like a good thing to do at the time because we had kind of started vlogging a little bit, and already doing a lot of like videos that were going on YouTube. So it seemed like a natural next step, like start a podcast. And that was also around the time that I was like getting into podcasts. So it also, yes, like listening. I feel like I was late to the game a little bit, but I feel like right around then is when I also started listening to like Model Health Show and Ultimate Health Podcast and S2S Podcast. So I feel like it was like, oh, okay, yeah, like I can do that. Yeah. Maybe we'll work to get to that level, but like we can do that.
Yeah. So what do you think after 2.5 years has been the biggest lesson you learned in podcasting, or like how you've developed as an entrepreneur, as a health coach, speaker? What's the change that you've seen
in myself?
Yeah.
Honestly, it has helped me a lot with like the public speaking on the fly. Okay. Because like, yes,
like we making up did you knows?
Look, when I tell you, let me just explain to y'all the mini heart attack I had about 3 minutes ago when we started this, because I was like, literally, I didn't even think about the did you know until that countdown went. And even it was like the last 10 seconds of the countdown. And then you were like, oh, I'm going to need you for the outline. And I was like, okay. And I went to the outline and I saw, did you know? And I was like, but yeah, the fact that I even was able to do that, like I was at first going to be like, okay, yeah, we'll just scratch the, did you know? Like I was going to be like nudging you on the knee, like just skip it. But the fact that I was even able to do that on the fly, like shows me how much I have been able to grow. Because yes, I have done public speaking in the past, but best believe I was practicing for a very long time. Yeah. Word for word, having the paper in front of me. So it's a little bit different on a podcast because we have a rough outline, but truthfully, sometimes I get on here without really having looked at the outline.
Oh, word?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know you know that. That's more to the audience. But the fact that I have been able to get comfortable enough to come on here on camera live and just talk shows me that I have evolved into being more comfortable in just talking and speaking my mind and sharing what's on my mind at the moment.
So for anyone out there who's thinking about starting a podcast, but maybe they're on the fence about it, maybe they are introverted like you are, what would be a piece of advice that you would give to that introverted person that's like, I don't know if I want to start a podcast, but they know they want to get into business, they know they have a message? What would you tell that person?
I would say it does alleviate stress to have an outline. So just make sure that you do outline. Like if you know, like if the thought of being on there without knowing, having, knowing what to say, and I'm thankful to have him. So that's a part of why I don't feel the need to like be so stringent on the outline, because I know that we already have great conversation and it naturally flows.
You think we have great conversation?
I do, but I wouldn't have married you if I didn't. But I feel like even if I'm like at a loss for words, like I know you'll always have some good question or a random story or anecdote or whatever that will give me something to work with. But if you're doing it solo, have an outline for each episode so that like that you can always go back to, like, oh shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Okay, well, let me just go back to the outline and get back on topic. But just keep in mind too, I think the cool thing about podcasts is the informality of it, to where it is just a conversation more than like a recorded speech. Right. Or a recorded, like a video, like an ad or something that is recorded. Like that has a different feel than just a conversation.
And that's why I think it's low key better if you are podcasting to either have it narrative based or to have a person on there with you. Because I remember back in the day when we didn't have our good rhythm set up yet, we didn't have a schedule set up yet. There would be times where I do the podcast by myself, you do the podcast by yourself, and listening back those episodes, no shade to either of us as individuals, because we're great people. But even our number one fan, Grandy, was like, yeah,
it wasn't the same.
You need each other on the podcast. It's just a different type of energy.
Yeah.
Right. Like me just talking, and sometimes I ramble. I'm sure that is less entertaining than when there is the back and forth, or if I'm telling a narrative that has certain points and a rhythm to it.
Right. Yeah. So I think that, like, again, if you are out there and you're a little more introverted, a little nervous to get out there, find a partner that is more on the extroverted side. That will help alleviate a lot of stress. But even if you are going to do it solo, realize that the pauses, the 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 laughs, the I don't know. Let me think about that. Like that's all part of it. It's a part of the podcast, and I feel like it's part of what makes it real and relatable. Because if you're just super polished, you gone on here, you never say an you never blink, you never sneeze or cough.
There's people out there not blinking.
I don't know. You know what I'm saying? But you never like do things that are natural, then it's not going to feel as relatable. It's going to feel like, oh, I'm listening to a recorded something, you know? So yeah, that would be my advice to folks out there that are like me. It's just, it gets easier as you go, but yeah, have a rough outline, get a partner, and don't stress about the pauses, the what's, the giving yourself time to think, the like random anecdotes that go a little bit off topic. Like as long as you bring it back, like that's all part of the experience. And I think what makes podcasts cool.
Gotcha.
My name is Sinclair, and I'm a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner who has created a program that takes a deep dive into your hormone levels and your overall metabolic health to create a highly personalized weight loss protocol that will have you lose up to 30 pounds, gain energy, and have you feeling so good that you go into the back of the closet and pull out that freakum dress. We all have one. So if you are ready to invest in the last weight loss program you will ever need, go to queen2queencoaching.com and book a discovery call to figure out which queen to queen package is right for you. Talk to you soon.
Another thing that's cool, random, while you check the outline, is see that nice. We did episode 2. I don't know if you remember, Queen. Where were we? Episode 2 of the Truvel Forever podcast.
Yeah,
we were in Santa Barbara. We were outside. We recorded it on a phone. I think we did have some video, but it was very, very janky video. The audio was on a phone. Background was nice and tree-ish, but it wasn't. Yeah, it was not. It was not popping. No real outline. We were just kind of out there talking about, I think, the benefits of like a meatless diet or something, or why we started going vegetarian. Go check that out, episode 2. It's not the best episode, but I think it's cool to see the growth, right? And I think that's what I'm most grateful for, is this 2.5 years, 100 episodes. You are able to see the growth of us as individuals, right? You see the Queen go from thinking about health coaching to thinking about doing an intermittent fasting plan to doing both of those things and quitting her job. You see me going through, starting the board game, but not having too much traction, messing up on the Kickstarter, to get, now we're on the news and all that type of dope stuff, right? You see us as a couple grow together, right? From being, we were married since we started.
I don't think so.
No? So from being engaged to buying our first property to getting married, going on our honeymoon, coming back, like you've seen a lot of growth from us from episode 1 all the way to episode 100. So if you've been rocking with us for 100 episodes, you're a real one. Make sure you like this video, give us a comment, let us know what your favorite episode was. But we appreciate you.
Maybe we were, because we recorded most of all of the episodes, if not out. We were in the condo and we were married. Okay, so yeah, we were married.
And if you've been watching since episode 1, you've also realized that 87% of the time.
You're right. Is that what you're about to say?
How did you know?
Because I'm right.
It was that 13% right there. Oh man. Okay, so now I want to get into a little bit the actual steps, right? So we kind of talked about our growth in the podcast, which is a great reason to do it, because you can document your growth. But the platform that we use, very simple, very free, is called anchor.fm. All right, we're uploading a lot of stuff there. There's tons of other platforms. I can't speak to those other platforms because that's not the ones that we've used. So if you're starting a podcast, do your own research, but you can know confidently the TH4 squad says Anchor is good to go. The good thing about Anchor is they do have a app on your phone, and that's where we recorded the first few episodes, like just within the app on Anchor. Boom, upload it right there. You can cut it up, have segments, add music. You can add sponsor things in there, sound effects, all that stuff, all online. So no matter where you are, you just have your phone or you have a computer, you can do those things. Also, beautiful thing about Anchor is when you push publish, it goes everywhere. Right? So literally from one platform, it will go to Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio. What else do people listen to? I don't know all the apps.
Lord knows.
But it'll go to all those different places. Okay, so literally anchor.fm. It is free, and I think it's owned by Spotify, so there's some good statistics in there as well, but it can be better on the stats. And we are looking for Harmless Harvest to still sponsor us, right? So in case if you got a friend, hit us up. Harmless Harvest. We drink this every day.
Every day.
Even,
you should see our fridge. You should see our fridge and the amount of empty bottles that are laying around our bedroom.
Listen, it was a priority as we were driving from IE to Santa Barbara to pull a Harmless Harvest out of the refrigerator and take it with us on the road.
We are junkies.
Oh man. But audio. Use anchor.fm. If you have any questions, I see folks are on Instagram. I see folks are on YouTube. Like drop your questions and we will, by we, I mean Sinclair, will do her best to see the questions because she has the good eyes in our relationship. So Anchor for audio. Personally, I haven't done a extrovert personality test, but I am a high I, so I assume that means I'm an extrovert as well.
One would assume.
Yeah. So as an extrovert, I also I like the video format, right? So the audio, as the queen said before, like you can just do audio on podcast, you're perfectly fine, right? But personally, I like being on video. I like the expression of it. I like the engagement of it. I like watching them back. So we also put our videos on YouTube, right? And through YouTube, we're able to do the long form. We got Jair in the background doing all the tech stuff. So he's able to edit this video to make a full version and a short version. Did that, and we started doing that, I think halfway through maybe, just to get more content out of the same video that we're doing, right? So not everybody, unfortunately, is going to sit there and watch for an hour, for 45 minutes, your whole podcast. So maybe you need to chunk it down to like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the most important stuff. That way they still get the message. And then if they want to be real, if they want to click on the full video, they can do that. But either way, it gives you more eyes and more watch time on YouTube.
That is another advantage to a podcast, is if you are creating some type of personal brand or any type of brand where you need content on to be posting online, it is a great way to repurpose content. So that's why, that's why I do the Did You Knows on the podcast, because we're already sitting here every week. So why would I do a whole nother day of the week where I have to have Devon, because I don't know the technology. I have to have Devon set up the technology, get all dolled up for the podcast. I don't really be getting that dolled up.
You still look good though.
Thanks, fam. But like, why would I do that when I can make it a segment on the podcast and then have our team just snip that out and use that every week? So that's what I've ended up doing, and it has been a lifesaver. Shout out to Harry.
Shout out. Speaking of which, so another layer of content, right? Because Queen, beautiful point. I feel like something that we struggled with at the beginning of TH4 was content. Like, what do we post? What do we create? And I think getting consistent with the podcast, it allowed us to create content in other ways. So there's the audio of the podcast, the long form video of the podcast, the shorter 10, 15-minute video of the podcast. Now we have Harry working on reels, right? 55 to 60-second reels that we put on Instagram. We put on YouTube Shorts as well, which do well. And then we have Rajel, who's writing blogs or show notes from it. So from this 1 hour and a half of us sitting here, right, creating the content, being intentional, scheduling it every single week, we have at least 6 pieces of content with 4 different platforms that are able to go out. So like the queen said, which I love that point, if you're building a business, building a personal brand, it's almost a no-brainer to either do a podcast or do something where intentionally every single week you're sitting down and creating content, which you might as well just do a podcast at that point. But yeah, even if you're not a podcasting company, consider doing a podcast just for the sake of sitting down, scheduling, and making content every single week. Queen, anything on that before we move on to whatever's next on our outline? Actually, I got something. I got something. And I just want to toot my horn real quick. Real quick. I'm a humble, amazing genius, right? So I also like how the podcast and working with our team has forced me to be more organized.
That it has.
Listen, easily the first probably 20, 30 episodes, there was no plan. There was no outline. There was no system of reaching out to guests.
Did we even have like, this is what we're talking about today, or did we
I think
just
we
get
just
on here
showed
and
up.
just talk?
Yeah, we just showed up. We're like, all right, what you want to talk about today? Like literally 30 seconds before clicking record. All right, no meat, no meat. Let's talk about it. All right, go. Right. But now it's like at least a few days in advance, I have to create an outline because Jair needs to know what segments to put within the live production. Right. I have to create an outline because Rogel needs to know, okay, what the captions are going to be. So I feel like it forces me to be more organized, which I think as a extrovert and as a person who can remix and just do stuff on the fly, I've used that gift a lot and it's helped me get so far.
Mm.
Right? It's helped me get to where I am today. Or no, I think it's helped me get to where I was maybe last year. But I think what's helped me get to where I am today is being a little bit more organized, writing things down, planning, using the systems, having the team around us, like all of those things has freed up more time and energy for me to be able to do other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I also think that's a personally, we talked about how you developed, like how I've developed as a entrepreneur and as a person through the podcast is being more intentional and organized. Yeah, as an entrepreneur.
I co-sign that.
Yeah.
You have been more organized, and good job, babe.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Speaking of organization, again, if you're listening, watching, please make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube channel to help us get more people to get this amazing content. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, which is our most popular platform, definitely make sure you give us a follow and rate this. I was gonna say rate the Spotify, rate the podcast on there. Give us at least a 4 for TH4. If you all give us anything less than that, just don't click it. All right, just don't do it. All right. Queen, what is next on our list?
Is the 7 steps.
Okay.
The 7 steps for launching our podcast.
Yeah, I got it from there.
Okay.
I got it. I know almost the 7 steps by memory at this point.
You should. You wrote a book.
I wrote the book. You know what I'm saying? 7 steps to launch the book. Go ahead and check that out. But
which is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
We got to see it. And
I did.
It. I got the first signed copy.
Yes, you did. As a queen should. As a queen should. I put a nice little note in there for it too. She can't read until July. But 7 steps, and these 7 steps are going to be. It's the same 7 for any business, but we're going to tweak them for the podcast specifically, right? But if you're starting a business, still follow these same 7. Number 1 is I need you to define the problem that your podcast or that your business is addressing. Mm-hmm. Right? So Queen, for the TH4 podcast, and this is kind of live ideation right now. We're trying to evolve, trying to take it to the next level for y'all. What is the problem that TH4 is addressing within the podcast?
I guess the lack of knowledge or education on how to live a holistically healthy life as a Black American. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of information out there. I feel like we're in the age of information where there's almost too much information, and it's like you don't know what to listen to or where you fit into the conversation. Mm-hmm. I've listened to a few different like health podcasts, and I feel like there were some at some point it was like, does this apply to me? Like, how do I know that they're taking into account like all different types of people? Mm-hmm. So I feel like health from a Black lens, it hits different. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, oh, okay, right. We've talked about race. We've talked about stress, the stress that brings. We've talked about, being in a marriage. We've talked about a lot of things that I think encompass the whole person. When you think about a person, and that's why we say holistic health and not just health, because we're about looking at it from a holistic lens. So I think that, being Black in America, there are a lot of layers to that, and that all of that needs to be addressed when you're talking about being holistically healthy. Mm-hmm. So this is a really long way to answer the question, but I think that is the problem that we're addressing is how do I be a Black woman, be a Black man, be a Black married couple in America and live a holistically healthy life, trying to, eventually raise a family, and make sure that we are, kind of changing the trajectory of the health of our people, because right now it's not looking good.
Yeah, you're 100% right. That was a very long way to answer the question. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, I think that is the problem that we're solving, right? And then moving on to step number 2, it's what makes us or what makes you unique in addressing that problem, or unique in the market, period. So for us, some things that make us unique are we are Black, we are melanated, we are African. The fact that we are beautifully married. Hey girl, what's up? Got a ring on that finger. That's my bride right there.
Got another compliment just yesterday. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she's like, oh my God.
Oh, I was signing. She was like, let me look at the ring. I was like, oh, girl.
This whole thing. Oh goodness. But yeah, the fact that we are married is very unique, and we get a lot of compliments just on the way that we're able to work with each other. They see the on the camera stuff, which is extra beautiful. The behind the scenes is still beautiful, but there's a little friction there sometimes, but it's real friction. Yeah, the real.
Instagram knows.
Instagram knows, right? Y'all see the stuff. But I think still as a couple, we're able to push each other and help each other build as individuals, right? That was something that one of my big brother Sergio said. He was like, it's dope to see that, you got your own lane, you're building, but your queen also has her own lane and she's building, but then y'all come together and you build together, and that's beautiful. So thank you for that affirmation. But I think that's something that also makes us unique. We are not say trying to build a family. We're not actively trying to build a family, but we are manifesting, preparing mentally, physically, emotionally to build a family. And I think that also makes us unique. And then the fact that we are just building a business. Yeah. So I think we have a lot of good, unique points. Each of them could be a niche separately,
right?
But you put them all together, that's also a super niche,
right?
And that's what you want to do. You want to figure out what makes you unique. What's your unique perspective in telling your story, whether it's a podcast, a business, photography company, what makes you unique? That way you can now know who you're talking to within your audience, right?
I think that's a good point, because anytime you get to this step, and I feel like I started out this way, and then it's also interesting to see that conversation happen, like on the Launch It community call, accountability call, which any of y'all who are trying to start a business need to be on.
Tap in.
But asking
Christy?
Yes, Christy, thank you. Like what her market was. And it started out of like basically like Black people. And then it was like, okay, well, I think she said like Black women. And then she said like this age to this age. But it's interesting because when you start out, I feel like the natural inclination is to say everybody. Right. I want to serve everybody, because you don't want to like pigeonhole yourself or cut off any part of the audience. But I think the saying that like if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody. Because everybody has different lives, different perspectives. So there's no way you can talk to everybody without it seeming like this isn't for me, right? Because you're trying to talk to everybody, and I don't feel special.
I got something.
Yeah.
I got something. It came to me, and this may not make 100% sense, and you let me know if it doesn't, okay? But would you rather drink all the water in the ocean or drink one glass of water?
One glass.
Why?
Because I don't want to drown.
Right. And I think we see like all the customers in the world, like that's our ocean. It's so abundant. Like we want the ocean, but realistically, one, you don't want to drown, and two, you can't drink ocean water.
Right.
It's salt. Like that water will make you more thirsty. You will never be able to quench your thirst drinking from the whole entire ocean. But you drink one glass of purified good water and you're good. Yeah. So I think as entrepreneurs, we need to find our one glass of water that we can drink that can make us, what's the equivalent for satiated for thirst?
I think that's still
quenched? Satiated? Quenched doesn't sound as cool as satiated.
Well, then use satiated.
You need to find your
thirstified.
Miss Webster, can you please tell her thirstified? Goodness, y'all hear this stuff that I
thirstified? Yes.
Oh man. But as entrepreneurs, instead of trying to drink the entire ocean, instead of trying to have everybody be your customers, find your one beautiful glass of water that you can drink so that you can become thirstified. All right, it's stuck in my head now. I'm gonna use it. So we've kind of already talked about step 3. Step 3 was audience. So we talked about what makes us unique, what makes you unique, and that can lead into defining who your audience is. So Queen, quickly, what is our audience? What is our amazing cup of water?
Our audience would be Black couples, married couples, couples trying to get married, or eventually planning to get married, families, really Black families, because that's the kind of the unit that we're really that I think we think makes the biggest impact on like someone's holistic health, is that family unit. So if you can make that family unit nice and strong and healthy holistically, then we're gonna have much better and much healthier Black folks out there in the world.
Oh yeah, I got two thoughts. One's a revolutionary thought, one's a business thought. Should I give both?
You're going to anyways.
No, I listen to you like 13% of the time. Was that accurate?
13? Yeah.
You think that's accurate? Okay. I'll start revolutionary, then I'll go down. I've continued to say that love and building the Black family, or building families of color, but for me specifically, building up a healthy, beautiful, strong Black family is the most revolutionary thing I think you can do, right? Because I think there's so many systems that try to pull that apart, whether it's what we see on the media, whether it's the prison industrial complex, the education system, the healthcare system. Like, there's so many systems that are unfortunately anti-Black health. So building up a strong Black family, I feel like is such a revolutionary thing. So being able to be a source for that audience, for people like us who are trying to build a beautiful, amazing, healthy family, I think is our audience. And like niching down even more. And this is not locking you into anything, Sinclair. It's just because we're saying it here, we're still thinking it through. I had to say that for so we get nervous. But if we can think about like the stages of life that our audience would live through, right? So which would be the same stage of life that we've lived through, right? Maybe this podcast is for people who are in college right now. They're with their sweetheart and they're trying to build, right? What are those first steps? How do we buy a house together? How do we get healthy together? How do we move in together? What's our communication skills? How do we do the 5 love languages? All that stuff before they get married. The couple that does get married and they're trying to live together, they want insurance together, they're looking for health coaches, they want to start their own business together, LLC, trust, foundation, all that stuff. This podcast is for that family too. This is like the stage that we're currently in. Right. As we have our first child and our second child, it's going to be beautiful and amazing. It's going to be for those couples that are like, dang, how do we balance having kids,
sharing
all these children? How do we balance, trying to snap back into my dad body, my mom body after having kids, and for that thing. That's just like, those are the stages of life that I feel like our listeners would go through as they listen to the podcast, because that's the stage of life that we're going to go through.
Right.
Are we good on audience?
Yes. Was that both thoughts?
I did. I meshed them into one seamless statement because I'm good like that.
Right. I'll get there.
It's okay.
It's just like, okay, that seemed like one.
It did. I'm a professional speaker.
That you are.
I'm literally a professional.
Literally.
I get paid to speak, which is crazy to still say publicly. But let me stop. Number 4 is product, which we can go through very easily with this one, but it's how do those first 3 things combine: the problem, your uniqueness, your talent, your spirit, your gifts, and the audience. How do those 3 things combine into what product you're offering? And for us, the product in this 7 steps is the podcast, is the YouTube, is the reels, are the blogs. Those will be the main kind of product segments that we're talking about. For you, may look different. Okay. Number 5, which I'll also go through quickly because we're on episode 100. And number 5 in the 7 steps is your MVP.
Minimum viable product.
I'm saying it's my star student right here. She'll be in office hours getting extra credit. Let me get focused. Not the hair. So this is part of the uniqueness, right? The part of the uniqueness of our podcast. It is family friendly, but adults, if you're watching, you already know what hilarious. So MVP, minimum viable product. How can you make your idea, your story, your podcast, your YouTube channel, your health coaching as what?
As what?
As real as possible. I just called you my star student on camera. Golly.
How can you make it as real as possible with like the least amount of like product, the least amount of effort, product, money, like just bare minimum? How can you make the product as real as possible so that you can test it out? The idea is not to invest a whole bunch of time or money into it. You just want to get something that you can just test out. So for Black Wall Street, the board game, it was a U-Haul box that literally just drew the outline of the game on, and then we used thumbtacks to play the game. How much did that cost? $0 because we already had the box and thumbtacks. Right. So it cost all of the 5 minutes it took, or probably more than that, but the 30 minutes it took to draw out the board game.
I use a ruler and everything.
But very minimal, right? So that the idea is that if it doesn't work out in that form, you did not waste a whole bunch of time and money.
Right. So for us, even for the podcast, again, download Anchor, which is a free app. Click record on the phone. And record your first 15-minute podcast. Just a simple introduction. Hey, my name is Devon Truvel. I'm doing this podcast on Black Wall Street entrepreneurship. Episode 1, we're going to talk about release that into the world. You are now a podcaster.
Right. And you can send that to friends and family and be like, hey, how was this? Let me know your feedback. Right. They may be like, this is great. This is when's episode 2? But they might also be like, you rambled a little bit and it was a little off topic and blah, blah, blah. So then like, like, okay, let me make some changes and record another one.
Say that one more time.
Let me make some changes and record another one.
Thank you. Because I think sometimes we get, as entrepreneurs, as people, we make our MVP, but I don't think we had the language or the intention of it being an MVP. In our head, we did the best we could with the resources we had. Right. But a part of business, that's a prototype. That's an MVP. We put that best we could with the best we had out into the world, and we get the feedback on, the lighting wasn't too good, or the audio was a little bit iffy, and we think, oh, well, forget it. I'm not going to do this then. I'm not meant to do it, right? But it's like, no, you just started. Keep going. When we first started, the audio, terrible. When we first started with doing Talking and TJ, the video quality, terrible. The audio, terrible. The talking, terrible. But we kept going. Right. Eventually, we were able to afford the Rodecaster Pro thing. So now our audio is better. Eventually, we were able to afford a M50 camera for the live streaming. So the video got better. Right. Eventually, we were able to do outlines, have guests, hire Jair to come on in to make everything look doper. So it's like you will build. You just need to keep on doing it and listen to the feedback and make sure you're using that feedback intentionally to make your product, your podcast, your health coaching, your board game better for your end customer. I'm reading a book right now called Walt Disney Way. Right? It's about just how Disney built his empire. Really good book if you're into business. Check it out, Walt Disney Way. But he says in there, Disney didn't write this book. Someone else wrote it. But they say the customer is not always right, but the customer is always the customer. Right. So it doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. They're the one that you're serving.
Right.
They're the one that your business is being supported by. So it's not about proving them wrong. Right. Your wife isn't always right, but your wife is always your wife. All right. So it's not about being right all the time. It's about sometimes making the partner happy, making the customer happy, making the wife happy within the situation. Right. Say it again for the people in the front. I walked into that one. So that's your MVP, right? After your MVP, after you can do this, you have what it takes, you have the skills, you have some room, some runway to get better, right? A plane doesn't just take off, it needs to take up speed before it takes off. So you have a runway, you're building up speed. Now, what's your business model? Right? How are you actually going to make revenue? How are you going to gain followers, gain attention from this podcast? Queen, what was our business model starting off with the podcast? Exactly. We did not have one. No, we didn't have one when we first started. We were just like, we're gonna start a podcast. We're gonna put it on YouTube. Eventually, we're gonna get YouTube subscribers, and eventually, we'll be able to monetize the podcast. That was the business thought. What we're growing into, and what you're gonna see a lot more of the second 100, which I feel like may be annoying to you as a listener, but from us on this side as business people, it's better for us, right? Is the internal ads and advertisement, right? So you're gonna start hearing it. You may hear it on this one, where Queen do a queen to queen commercial real quick. Not the whole thing, just like a
Queen, have you ever looked at a weight loss program and thought, "Ugh, this is great, but how do I know that this works for me?"
beautiful, cool. Because so that clip may play sometime during this episode or the next episode, right? So we're doing internal ads to help our users who are already listening for free. They rock with us. We give y'all steps to how to start a business, steps to how to start a podcast, steps to start your health company or your health journey. So maybe you want to take that to the next level. Maybe you want to actually invest in your health and hire a health coach. Boom, we have one here for you internally. All right. Maybe you want to actually start your podcast. You want to actually write your book. Boom, we have resources for you internally with Launch It. So the next 100 episodes of the podcast are really going to be us now that we've built a kind of a ecosystem of offerings that we have. How can we make sure that our listeners are taking full advantage and investing in their health and investing in their wealth with us with the offers that we have? So that's our kind of new business model. We're like at 500, 400 and something YouTube subscribers. So once we get to 1,000, we can start officially monetizing with YouTube ads. But since we're not there yet, you should still have a business model, right? If you're just starting your YouTube channel, just starting your podcast, how can your podcast either make revenue, or how can it be a platform to draw more people to where you are making revenue?
Right.
Queen, anything you want to add on that?
I think like it can be a good like supplemental thing, especially if you like have some type of service-based company or business.
Real estate agent,
right.
hair person.
Right. And really any type of service, there's usually there like, okay, so if I'm a hairdresser or something like that, yes, I'm gonna lock your hair, but then how do you know how to maintain it afterwards? How do you know what hair products to use? How do you know how often you need to get it retwisted? Like there's it's more than just what that hour or 2 hours or 3 hours or 6 hours, however long it takes to actually get the hair done. It's more than just that for any service, right? For health coaching, it's more than just the hour I'm going to sit down and go over your lab results or talk to you about your health plan, right? You're going to have questions about what exercises to do or what happens if this and what should I be eating and all. Like there's going to be things outside of that time frame, that those billable hours, I'll call them. So I feel like having a podcast is a good way to address those questions. And while doing that, again, you're going to attract people who are also looking for those answers to those questions online. So that is what he's talking about, like a way to bring in more people. Like, okay, because there's going to be some people who find you because they're looking forward to get their hair locked. And then, oh, cool, you also have a podcast. That's great. Well, I'm definitely going to keep coming to you. Or there's going to be some people that find you because they're like, how I've got my locks like 5 weeks ago. How often do I need to get a retwist? Yeah. In summary, if you are doing any type of service-based business, a podcast can be a great way to supplement your what I'll call billable hours or whatever time frame you're actually, your client is actually paying for. There's going to be other questions or other information that they're looking for. So you can answer those questions using your podcast.
Beautiful. Thanks. That's a good point. I'll give you a high five again. I don't know if they caught that.
Thank you.
And then the last step is branding it. And a lot of folks, they pick the name of the company, they pick the name of the brand before they build out stuff, which is, I think, a little bit backward, right? So for me, in the 7 steps I talk about, brand is the last thing. That way you can put all these things, the audience, the problem that you're solving, your product, all of it kind of makes sense within the name, right? So something that I know I've been on the fence about, I don't know if you've been on the fence about it, but I've been on the fence about the name of the podcast, True Forever Podcast. right? Because I know we started the company as True Forever, and that was the blog. And at this point, where we feel deep in it, so it's like True Forever podcast, TH4 podcast. But I feel like when we go through the 7 steps, it doesn't. I can be persuaded. It doesn't talk to specifically the audience that we want to talk to, just in the title, right? So if y'all have title ideas for us, feel free, put it inside of the IG live, put it inside the comments. Like, what other, based on this episode, what other podcast titles to you make sense based on the brand, based on what we're talking about, based on the audience? What are some titles that we may be able to think about? But Queen, do you disagree? Probably. Go ahead.
I don't disagree that there could be a better name out there for it. I don't have ideas at this moment.
Got you. But are you open to possibly changing the name of the podcast?
I am open to it, yes.
Okay. What would cause you hesitation, as I see in your eyebrows?
I just want to make sure that, I mean, it's hard to say without knowing what the new name is going to be. Obviously, if we find something that we're both like, yeah, this is it, then I would have no hesitation.
Gotcha. I have a name in mind. I'm not gonna say it on air because I don't want someone listening to be like, "Ooh, I got the name of the podcast. They just taught me the 7 steps how to launch a podcast. I'm about to take that podcast." So I'll tell you the name of it right after this. But yeah, I got a few names I think are a little bit more in line. Now, I think the hesitation with anyone doing a rebrand, right, is I've built up a audience, I built up a brand with TH4, with Truvel Forever. We have the website, we have all this stuff. So it's like, do I lose all of that if we start something else? Which I think is very possible, and that's why we haven't changed the name. But I think there's also that if you pick the right name and you get the right SEO and people can read the podcast and know, that's for me, right? They just know it based on the reading the name, then we might increase our followers dramatically. So it might be worth an experiment where we record the podcast and put it up on 2 different things, put it up on the TH4 podcast and then put it up on this new version. We can see which one gets more listens just based on the title. It can be the same exact podcast, same exact talking, but we just put it up on different names, kind of A/B testing it. You know, you see something?
No, there's people coming in and out, but there's no questions.
Okay. Okay, so those are the 7 steps. Right. Again, find or define your problem. Number 2, what makes you unique? What's your unique perspective? Number 3, who is your audience? Who are you talking to? Number 4, what is the product that you are promoting or that you are selling, that you are using to solve the problem? Number 5, how can you create your MVP, which stands for
minimum viable product.
Number 6, what is your business model? How is your podcast? How is your business making revenue? Who is your customers? Who is paying? Number 7, what is the brand or the company name? Good.
Good.
So as we wrap up today, we're going to do a short ask declare segment, which I appreciate the segments. I think that can be a whole nother podcast episode of how to structure your podcast. This was just on how to start a podcast, but we've also, I think, developed the structure of it. So my question to you is, Queen, what has been your favorite podcast episode? Or you can name a few, but out of the 100, what has been your favorite so far? Think about it. Try to think out loud because someone was telling us we have long pauses on our podcast, and I think that may be your thinking pauses.
Probably. So like one of them that came to mind was the one with Chef Leo. I really enjoyed that one because I feel like we don't always dive really deep into the like physical health, nutrition, like nitty gritty stuff that I like. So I think that one was one where I got to nerd out a little bit and get someone like on very similar wavelength of, yeah, just like how it is a little bit like you have to be a little bit, I'm gonna say radical is not the right word, but like you got to be a little bit against the grain to really go against the grain to really live a healthy life these days, and how hard it is to do that because of the food that's out there, the stress, the just the chaos and everything that's out there. But yeah, even just like how he was talking about food and how it affects your body, and I learned about like alkaline vegan, which I was semi familiar with, but not as familiar with until he kind of broke it down. So that was nice to hear. Yeah, and that was just like dropping gems. Like I just remember being like, "Oh yeah, that was good." Like pretty much the whole episode. So I really enjoyed that one.
Agreed. That one was a good one. You have the same question for me, or you have a different question?
Same question.
Cool. I got two. I really liked, and it's still fresh, but I liked the one with April that we just did about the PASS network and being able to dive into curriculum and self-care, but really the curriculum part was fun. And I also liked the one with Star. The one with Star was really good. That was my first introduction to SOPs, which is another great kind of reason to start a podcast. Is you start to interview experts and people out there who can not only teach your audience, who can teach you. Right. So I think, and my third favorite would be POP round 2.
I knew that was going to be on the
list. POP round 2, like talking about content creation. So yeah, I love that we're able to bring folks on that can teach our audience, but at the same time, like we're out here taking mental notes and we're able to really take our business and ourselves to the next level based on what they're telling us. So yeah, I think that was probably my top 3. Jai's was good too. That was a good sentimental one. That was a good sentimental one. Yeah. Anything before we wrap up and we do weekly updates, my queen?
It's just that I appreciate you. 100 episodes in. Thanks. You've been holding it down for us. Really the main voice, the introduction and the outro and all of that. It's been a pleasure, co-host.
Well, thank you, queen. It's been my honor as well.
200 more.
To 100 more. So the second 100, or do you want to be the main voice? Does that?
Nope. If it ain't broken, don't fix it.
Just thought I asked. But let us know what improvements, what new things that you want to see in the second 100 of the TH4 or the podcast. Right. Let us know things that you think we can do better, guests that you want to see on the show, different topics that you want to learn about. If it does fit within our niche, within our market, happy to have it on the show. All right. So Queen.
Yes.
Let's get into updates. Tell the folks what you got going on. What's popping?
What's popping?
That's my Nikki impression. What's popping? What's popping?
So we do still have some slots available in our beta weight loss program. This is the Queen to Queen 90-day weight loss formula. Okay. So basically, this is a 90-day program where you are going to completely transform. You're not going to recognize yourself anymore.
Like Pikachu to write you?
What did you say?
Never mind. Pokemon reference. Keep going.
Why would you? Anyways, he knows I don't know Pokemon. I just told him that's one of those things like we can't connect on. I'm just not. I'm not there. I'm sorry. You need another friend for that. But yeah, you're gonna be a completely new woman. You're going to lose. You can lose up to 30 pounds. I'm telling you. Imagine yourself 30 pounds thinner. Imagine what you look like, what you feel like. You are one click away from that woman. You're going to feel so good. You're going to have energy. You're going to be, I always bring this up because, look, it's an accomplishment that I've been able to achieve, and I feel very proud about it. You're going to be having regular bowel movements, okay? It just feels good to eliminate on a regular basis.
There's a lot of things you could have said. That was not it. That was not the one that I was expecting.
Anyways. But yeah, I've taken myself through the program and actually just I redid lab work on myself. And I was sharing my successes with the king about how not only have I balanced my hormones more, my hormones tanked before I started my own program on myself. But my cortisol levels are coming up. All my sexual hormones are also balancing out. And even better, my microbiome.
Ooh.
We get more balance with my gut bacteria. Before I was a little bit like there was a little bit more bad gut or like opportunistic bacteria in my gut than there was good, but the ratio's popping now. So that probably affects the bowel movements I was talking about. Okay.
Anyways, see what I be dealing with, right? Y'all see what makes her happy. Regular bowel movements and microbiomes. How do I compete with this?
But anyways, yeah, you're going to be feeling really, really good about yourself at the end of these 90 days. And we are about 90 days away from summer. Although, here in California, it's pretty much summer all the time. But we're about 90 days away from those days when you're going to want to go ahead and put that bikini on and go to the beach. So why not make sure that you can do that, rock that with confidence? You don't have to be self-conscious anymore. You're going to be feeling so good. You're going to be asking people going to be like, can you cover up? Because you out here naked all the time. You'll be like, yup. Anyways, we do still have some slots open, and right now it is 50% off because I'm again trying to work on this small beta group that I can get through the program. They can give me, this is my MVP. They can give me some good feedback, and we can relaunch with all their feedback, taken into account. So if you're trying to get in right now before the price goes up, this is the time to do it. Go to queencoaching.com and book a discovery call. And that's where we will just talk and make sure that you are a good fit for the program and the program is a good fit for you.
There it is. And in case you're a really good person at taking directions, you're going to want to do www.queen2queencoaching.com. If you just do Queen to Queen Coaching, it won't show up. You got to put the www. In case you didn't know. Okay.
What he said.
Yeah. And on my side, any other updates before I go?
No.
No? Good. Cool.
Unless I missed something.
I don't think so.
Okay.
So on our side, if you follow us, Play Black Wall Street, or me, Devon Truvel, on Instagram, you've seen that we've had a beautiful streak of getting on the news.
Yep.
We were on Fox 23 out in local Tulsa. Thank you for all the community members that supported, watched, purchased, and just joined the community after that. We appreciate you. We were also featured in the Cricket Wireless Making Black History campaign, was also really dope, right? You know what I'm saying? Shout out to the Cricket Wireless team. Shout out to the Cricket Wireless team. Shout out to Marquel for putting that video together. The Boys and Girls Club for getting us connected. AT&T, just it was a dope kind of conglomerate of a lot of moving parts that led to that. So appreciate everybody who had a piece in it. Yeah, I think that's it on that. Number 2, we went to Temecula, California yesterday and sold some games live. We're at the grand opening of the Caribbean Corner. What's not a restaurant? Caribbean Corner General Store? Spot,
Gift
boutique.
shop.
Yeah, spot out in Temecula. We got a lot of love in the IE. We appreciate y'all. And then lastly, as the Queen said, the books are here. Thank you for everyone who took advantage of the Happy Birthday Truvel special and got themselves an ebook or a physical book. Appreciate y'all. The calls are going cool, but there is room for more people to join. Right now, if you're in the accountability call, much love. Keep showing up Friday, 7 a.m. and y'all get a lot of Q&A time, a lot of open time, right? But we are looking to continue to build out that community. And as we build out, there'll be, unfortunately, less and less individual time to ask those questions. So if you're already in there, keep taking advantage. Please keep asking those tough, difficult questions. And if you're not, if you're thinking about joining the podcast or starting a podcast, if you're thinking about writing a book, if you're thinking about starting a YouTube channel, you want to turn your passion into profit, think no more. It's time to launch. Okay. Still give you that birthday special. Go to www.happybirthdaytravel.com. Get yourself the ebook and the physical book, and you'll be able to join our launching community. And you'll be 7 steps closer to launching your business and turning your passion into profit. Quit playing. Quit hesitating. Let's go. Join us. See you there. I think we're good. Episode 100 in the bag, in the books. Blah, blah. But yeah, we greatly appreciate y'all. It's been a journey, and we're only going to keep it going, only going to keep getting better. So as usual, thank you for tuning in to the TH4 podcast, where we try to live our best life through the lens of holistic health. Oh, we're gonna need to change all of that. Oh, if we change so rough, man. My name is Devon Truvel, creator of Black Wall Street, the board game.
And I'm Sinclair, aka the Health Nerd.
We're seeing Kevin Hart tonight.
Hey,
we hope y'all stay healthy. We hope y'all stay mentally wealthy. And of course, we hope y'all Stay true.
Thank you for tuning in to the True Health Forever podcast. We hope you learned something valuable that you can take and implement into your life. Now, we've all heard that sharing is caring, and this podcast is no exception. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, a family member, a coworker, a stranger walking down the street, anybody who you think can level up from this message. As always, we appreciate your support, and we'll talk to you next week. Be well.